Welcome everybody to another edition of this, how people are responding to coronavirus and the pandemic and closures and everything else inside the Skev. Today I have Nina Barrett, who has been on the show before. She owns Bookends and Beginnings in downtown Evanston. And she's a brick and mortar store operator. And like many of us here, it greatly affects us. So Nina, thanks for taking the time to talk here.
Oh, thank you for doing this. I think one of the hardest things about right now is the lack of being able to communicate with people that you normally see on an everyday basis. And, the sense that there's something going on out there. There's a lot going on out there, but the only thing that's visible is beautiful spring weather that looks, so normal when pretty much everything that's going on is so abnormal.
It's deceiving.
It's very deceiving. And it's sort of at a time when we don't have that many. I think we have all these sort of micro ways of staying in touch directly with one person, but just at the local level. I mean, I'm getting plenty of national news.
Yeah.
I think I have more of a sense of how this is affecting New York City than I do of how it's affecting Chicago, and definitely more than how it's affecting Evanston.
Right. I mean, I think part of that is that local media has gone away quite a bit over the past several years. I'm glad I have this platform to be able to talk to people and share those stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we realize how important those things are right now when you are dealing with the crisis.
Yeah.
It's a weird time, and it's interesting because your store is so much about the physical location. Yeah. And you're in Bookman's Alley, and we talked about this when you came on the show and how special of a place it is. How do you get through that? How do you still get people to be buying the books and supporting your business, so when we come out of this, you're there?
Well, I mean, to some extent, we're facing exactly the same problem that, all the restaurants are facing. Restaurants are also, they're primarily in the business to be a place, not to be a takeout joint.
Right.
Bookstores traditionally, they talk about being a third place a lot, which is about you're not at home, you're not at work, you're in this third space where you both, have the kinds of random encounters with your neighbors, and in the case of bookstores, where you have the chance to interact with all these stories, which some of them are life-saving for people. And obviously, when we went into this business, the point was to not be an online bookstore.
Right.
We knew that you could click a little button on your computer and get a book from who. I hate giving them more publicity, so I don't like to mention their name. But, the whole point of what we're doing here is we're not trying to compete with that. We're trying to be a place. We're trying to be the place where you run into your neighbors. We're trying to be the place where you actually touch a book and, sit down and flip through it and decide if you're engaged with it. And we've just for survival now, we have had to do this complete pivot, and try to become an online bookstore and try to become in some ways like a news organization ourselves, because the only way we have of engaging with people right now is virtual. So we've done a couple of things proactively. For one thing, we redid our homepage. We discovered when we sent out the first email notifying people that we had to shut for walk-in business, but they could order online from us, we discovered that a lot of our customers didn't know that they could have ordered online from us all along.
Oh.
We're in this great position of we've always had a website with an incredible e-commerce back end. So it allows people to not just order what we have in the store, but it's the same warehouse that we special order books for people. So it's millions of other books. And our website allows you now, well, it always did, but it allows you to sort of connect with that whole database, and so order from among millions of books that can be shipped directly from the warehouse.
You know, it's interesting. I've been telling everybody who I can tell about if they're thinking about buying a book, say, get it from Bookends and Beginnings. And like, oh, do they have like all the books that other places have? I'm like, yeah, it's a huge database. They're shipping it from their warehouse.
Yeah. And you know who is not shipping right now.
They're delaying things.
They're delaying. So you're going to get a book from us faster than you're going to get it from them. And that's a big irony, since they got into this business by, kind of grabbing the whole book business away from independent bookstores. Right. So now we are the people you can get a book from. So that's, we've now retooled our website, which we used to regard as kind of a big billboard for coming into the store. We used to regard it as a way to make you aware of how cozy the store was and how beautiful it was and how many great events we had. And we just have now completely rethought the homepage to be about how do you order books from us.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting that I've been involved in is I did some post-film interviews for the JCC, for their Jewish Film Fest. And now they've shifted everything to online. And I did one yesterday, a Q&A with a filmmaker. And I'm going to be hosting a symposium on Holocaust Remembrance Day in a few weeks. And one of the people I'm interviewing wrote a book called The Survivors, which I bought from you. So and I ordered it from you guys. And it's, I think that's an interesting way that people are shifting what, had to be in the theater or had to be in different ways. And we're, doing it online so people can connect. And it's just, maybe are you thinking of doing things like that where you have authors come in or anything with a Zoom?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk in our industry. I mean, all these poor authors who had books coming out in this, and we're going out on book tours, which all got canceled. And so there's a lot of talk in the industry of virtual events. I am not sure that that's going to be super successful. I just don't think, an event for us in the store is an hour long.
Yeah.
Is just sort of I think we've all now been in enough Zoom meetings where, somebody just droned on and on and on with some PowerPoint slides. And we were like, oh God, can I like turn the picture off and check my email now? Right. So, I am not sure that like replicating what an author event would be like in the store through Zoom is the best, format for doing that. We are actually, what we're looking at now is launching a blog, which would have a variety of content on it. So maybe very, very short author interviews, some of them in video, some of them in, just asking them some questions, some book recommendations from the staff. Yeah. So we're continuing to read, obviously, and we continue to want to recommend things to people. But essentially, we are looking at launching a little store magazine, kind of a multimedia magazine that we can use to just keep, we'd also like to provide some forum for the local author community to keep in touch. We've done events in the store that have been things like readings of works in progress, and so just to keep some place for literary life to remain visible in the best way we can do that.
Yeah, and supporting the local people here. I mean, that's what you're all about. Yeah. I think that's interesting, and obviously it would be a digital magazine, but that way you have you'd also have more content to be able to push out for your e-newsletters and everything else, and it keeps you relevant. How have you spoken with other independent books sellers and how they're doing things? Or is there like a forum where people are exchanging ideas?
Yeah, there are a number of forums. We're hearing every day from the American Booksellers Association. And there are two great industry newsletters that come out daily, Shelf Awareness and Publishers Weekly Daily. And essentially all of the content is all about what bookstores across the country are doing to cope. I was writing to somebody this morning about how this business always challenges you to be super creative with your business model. And because the profit margin is just so low.
Yeah.
So, in the best of times, and also what works for one store doesn't necessarily work for another store. So in the best of times, we're like reinventing our business model all the time anyway. But because of this, where, the situation has unfolded so quickly, and you wake up every morning and you look at the news and the situation looks completely different. It's like we are reinventing our business model on a daily basis now. And so
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I'm a real estate agent.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting ideas from there. But we are also, things aren't great for us, but I do feel like we have some options for us that are not available to everybody to take advantage of. For instance, having a really good e-commerce enabled website is an amazing resource to have right now. But, so we also early on launched a GoFundMe campaign. I saw very early on that a couple of bookstores had done that, and they were all bookstores. It sort of shocked me because they were bookstores that normally are clearly very successful.
Yeah.
And I know the owners of both of them personally, and I know that they're people with a lot of pride who it would have been very difficult for them to go out and say, geez, we need you to throw some money at us right now because this is looking really dire. And, just because I saw that, it made me think, it's not something I would want to do because I have the same feelings. I have a lot of pride in being able to make this bookstore solvent. It always has been solvent. It's always been self-supporting. It's never had debt of any kind. But, when you look at what at the point where this went from being a 2-week closure to being a 1-month closure and possibly a 2-month closure and possibly beyond that, we don't know.
Right.
If you look at your numbers, there's no way as a small business you can do that. And I feel very, very strongly that I will do almost anything other than lay off my staff. I have a very small staff, but they live, pretty hand to mouth on wages that aren't great in the best of times. And I don't want to throw them out.
Right.
I understand why other stores have had to do it, because if you're a much bigger store, then you've got a much bigger payroll to maintain. But I feel really strongly that that is my highest priority, is keeping these 3 people unemployed and off unemployment. Keeping them
employed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a call, a week ago that we would start a GoFundMe, and it felt really uncomfortable. And that for the hour after it went live, I went in my bedroom and I curled up in the fetal position and felt like, oh God. And then people started donating, and it makes you want to cry, because people not only they not just donate, but they also make comments about why it's important to them to make sure that the store survives. And you read those comments, and it's just, Well, it's just incredible to know that you make that big a difference in people's lives, that they value you as a place, that they value you as a business. And I have to say that now that we're a week further along and we have an even, better idea of how long this closure is going to last, and we've applied for all of those loans and
Good.
grants that
Yeah.
were supposed to give us, instant money, like that SBA loan that was supposed to produce $10,000 in 3 days, and we haven't heard from the
The
SBA.
disaster loan.
Yes, the yeah.
Did you apply for the SBA loan that they said became available on April 3rd?
Yes, the
Was
one
that?
the EIDL loan that was supposed to be. It came with a $10,000 like sort of instant emergency grant that you were supposed to get in 3 days.
Yeah, hasn't happened.
Haven't heard from them since then. Yeah.
It's hard to pump out that much money that quickly,
You know what? So
But
it is. It
yeah,
is. Although driving to the store this morning, I heard an interview on the BBC program that it was an interview with a German woman who's like a freelancer, and the German government has already, just piped money into her bank account.
yeah,
They tend to be more efficient, but
yeah. They're pretty efficient people.
I think that we've seen this big, you know, the politicians were really rushing to make it sound like this wasn't going to be a huge economic disaster for people. And I'm sure it's from everybody's best intentions that we have the Paycheck Protection Program, another thing which appears to be, just sort of a big nothing burger at the moment.
Yeah,
So we look at that and we think, oh, we did think that there were ambulances racing toward us full of money to save us, and the ambulances are still in the garage. So this money that's coming in through our GoFundMe campaign has just turned out to be absolutely critical in tiding us over.
yeah, yeah. This is crazy. And when you're shut down, you are not part of the essential business protection, are you?
So bookstore there, that's a controversial topic among the bookstore community nationwide. There are bookstores that are asking for that exception, to be considered a vital business, and they're making an argument that that I understand, but I feel very uncomfortable about that. I just feel like I went to a supermarket yesterday that I normally love, and I felt terrible for them because I was in there personally, but mainly what they were doing was shopping for other people. And, I understand other people wanting to be safe and calling in their orders and everything, but these people were this was a local market. They were completely overwhelmed. And it just made me it made me uncomfortable to be in there because you don't
Yeah,
know.
they don't want you
But
there either.
yeah, but it also made me feel like all their employees who have to be there doing the shopping for all these other people, they're all out there, they're all exposed. And so when I think about how could I even operate my business if I decided to declare myself, essential, it means exposing your employees to things that other people are avoiding by staying home.
Mhm.
And I don't like
It just
I don't,
feels unethical to you.
it does.
Yeah. Do you think that more businesses should shut down? Even a real estate agent, I know we're considered essential
Yeah,
services. So
yeah,
I'm technically allowed to do a showing, can't do an
yeah,
open house.
yeah,
But I don't feel comfortable with going out there and being exposed.
yeah,
Um, and I see construction workers doing
yep,
remodeling and
yep,
landscapers out there, and even doing stuff for municipalities. And it's like, can't this wait? I mean, the landscapers are in a
yeah,
truck together,
yeah,
not wearing masks. They're all next to each other.
yep,
It Many people live in close quarters with other
yep.
people. I mean, who knows, right?
Right. Um, there is absolutely no question that this is a class, that there are these it's a class issue of
Yes.
the people who can afford to stay home, afford to order in, um, and I don't want to criticize those people. That's what we're asking our customers to do. But you do. Everybody should be trying to stay as safe as they can. And if you're forcing employees, I mean, we have to have grocery stores. We do. We have to have hospitals, obviously.
Right.
If we can just get books to customers, um, and somewhere, so our books are coming to you from our distributor warehouse. So clearly there's somebody working in our distributor warehouse that's packing these books up and shipping them. I don't want to be holier than thou, but I do think that, the fewer, as an employer, definitely the fewer people you can expose at a time when they're calling this America's Pearl Harbor, the fewer the people you do want to expose.
Right. I mean, what do you think you're going to do once the stay-at-home order is lifted at some point, whether it be in a month, 2 months, 3 months? Would you have, I guess this is a hard question to answer right now because everything changes on an
Yeah.
hourly basis. But do you think that you'd have your employees being wearing masks and limit how many people can be in the store at a certain time? I almost feel like that's going to be the norm for the
Yeah,
next couple of years.
it probably is,
Yeah.
unless somebody figures out some better way. I think, I think a lot about the fact that there has been so little testing.
Right.
I really think that there are a lot of people out there who had the mild cases or had the asymptomatic cases who never got tested, but, presumably will have the antibodies and will be immune. If people knew that about themselves, I think that would put a lot of people's minds at, ease, as at least they go about their business. In a way, you wouldn't have to worry that you're still a sitting duck. But but it calls into question the very nature of being a brick and mortar business, which is like offering a place where people can come in and touch things,
Yeah.
and have contact with other people. I don't think that the answer to that is that, like, oh, let's lose brick and mortar places and just have online places. In order to think that, you have to deceive yourself to thinking that behind the online places, there aren't warehouses full of people who are coming into work and getting, there's still people behind all commerce. And as long as this is out there, they're all going to be exposed to
Right.
it.
This is probably not something you want to hear, but where my mind goes on something like this is where I feel like people are going to try to move out of the cities and try to be
Mm.
further away from each other because of this isolation, and for people who can within the economy can work remotely.
Yeah.
What's it matter if I'm in the middle of Illinois in the cornfields, or if I'm in the middle of downtown Evanston? Like, personally,
Right.
I love being in a town. You could see your
Yep.
neighbors.
Yeah.
This is going to have serious PTSD on
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like the Jetsons, and where people will spread out. And I was listening to a podcast the other day by Sam Harris, and he's talking about with the person who runs WordPress. He owns the WordPress, and their company is fully remote, and they have about 1,000 employees, and everything is digital, and no offices really. And it's just a way different way of the world taking
Mhm.
place. But I have a 7-year-old and 9-year-old. They are home from school right now. It's spring break, I guess. So
Yeah.
doing things digitally online, and they're on their devices all the time, as am I. But there's something where we start to lose somewhat of our humanity.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's nice to have an actual paper book where we
Yep.
can slow down
Yeah.
and become a human again. I mean, how do you see that, our society changing, and what can, like an independent bookstore like yourself do to help maintain our sanity?
Um, Well, I think the best thing we can do is provide you with books, which, the kind of people who are book people, I think, have always relied on books for their sanity, for answers, whether those are, narrative storytelling answers or, how-to book answers or, philosophical or religious or, spiritual answers. That's why a lot of people turn to books. So we have that.
Yeah.
I think that what you say is really, it's a very interesting, definitely real estate point of view. One of my concerns about all of this locally is, what does downtown Evanston look like when this is all over?
Oh yeah. What is
Sooner or
downtown
later.
Evanston? What is like downtown Evanston doing, the organization or the city doing to help support people right now? I mean, to like, and where do you think, the town's going to be like?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of scary things going on because, for one thing, what you're talking about, like, oh, people are going to all want to move to the country. What downtown Evanston and the Evanston economic people, have been marketing is that Evanston is like one of the best small towns in America because we have, we have the beautiful lakefront, we have the wonderful schools, but also we had this vital, cool downtown full of wonderful restaurants and shops. Clearly, that was already running into trouble before this happened.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of small businesses over the December, January period before this hit. You saw a lot of empty storefronts. There's a big issue with commercial rents. It's, of course, before this happened, it was just getting harder and harder for any brick and mortar business to sell enough stuff to pay their rent anyway.
Yeah, and real estate taxes were going up significantly too.
And real estate taxes went up significantly, which puts landlords, let's not blame it all on them. They've been put in a terrible position too. Then, one of the things that I think reinvented Evanston the last time Evanston was in this situation, I think that Evanston went through a phase, at the dawn of the shopping mall, when the chain businesses were going into the shopping malls, and then the chain businesses came to downtown Evanston, and kind of the mom and pop stores got pushed out in the first wave of that. And then the chain businesses started not doing very well. But, about 5 or 6 years ago, or whenever that was, there was this huge restaurant renaissance that I think really breathed this wonderful new life into downtown Evanston. And Evanston, which didn't used to even have a bar, suddenly became like this great dining capital of the North Shore. Well, the restaurants are really hit hard by this, and who knows who's going to show up on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of businesses that maybe didn't weather this, and then we have a bunch of restaurants that maybe didn't weather this, and then we have a downtown full of empty, what, I don't know what happens then. I know it's not, we're not the only people who are going to have this problem, but I don't think that it's like we're all going to wake up like Sleeping Beauty in July and the whole town will just, come right back to life. There's going to be a lot of casualties.
Yeah, there are going to be. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think, God, I hope we have a vaccine.
Yeah.
If we have a vaccine and then create a real solid plan for the next time this happens, because it's not like this is not going to happen again. This happens throughout human history. It's really why, things have, my background is actually in urban planning, even before, being in real estate. Mm-hmm. And just looking at the settlement patterns and people wanting to get out of the tenements in New York City because they're all on top of each other.
Yep.
And, I was just looking at like the Broadacre City Plan by Frank Lloyd Wright, where it's all spread out and everything, everyone's got their farms and it's, very low density. I hope that doesn't happen. I like how we have, I like being able to see my neighbors. I like being able to walk. And I feel like people are going to on the flip side, I think people are really going to want that human connection really, really badly.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the optimistic point of view, where if we can get a vaccine and treatment and people can, figure out how to live with this, maybe we will all come back to the restaurants and shops and stores and everything else around here.
Yeah, it's just not going to be instant. And I'm a little worried. We have gotten such fantastic customer support, both, for the GoFundMe campaign, and also people have been ordering online. They've been making a point of ordering online, but it's feels like it's kind of early days still. So many people are getting laid off, and they're going to face financial consequences for that themselves. I think there's going to be a certain exhaustion in terms of, hey, do something to support your local business, when you yourself don't know how you're paying your mortgage this month. So I don't think we can count on that for, forever. These are all BandAids. But you're right. I mean, the only real answer is a vaccine, so everybody feels safe walking again and walking around again.
Yeah. No, I agree. We're gonna need that. Yeah, and I hear you. I mean, it's gonna be, every single business is going to need support.
Yep.
And I look at it that way, and I think if people can figure out how to lend their hand in a certain way, with maybe it's not monetary, but whatever you can do to help support each other, be empathetic to each other, read a book, be more in touch. I think that's really where it helps heal us, emotionally. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Well, where can people go? What is the website for your business?
It's www.bookends with an S and beginnings.com, and that's all spelled out. So that allows you to order a book. If you want to donate to the GoFundMe, just go to the GoFundMe site and search Bookends and Beginnings, and you'll see the campaign. And, of course, any amount helps because it's a collective effort. So, maybe you can give $5. It gets multiplied by a lot of other people, and it ends up really helping.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Everyone, please support Bookends and Beginnings, support your local bookseller, support your local store, so we all come out on the other side. So, Nina, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for doing it, really. I think it's really important at a time like this.
It's my pleasure.